you were committing a murder. Nothing you did was remotely necessary for defense, of federal personnel or federal property. Nothing you did was remotely necessary for the enforcement of law. And so it will be a fight about whether the officer's actions were in furtherance and within the scope of their official duties. I think the video makes clear they were not. And so, yes, this officer can absolutely be charged with murder, in violation of state law.
So I just want to talk about one more thing in the news before we get to the book, and that happened today. Speaking of immigrants and ICE actions, there was this fatal shooting today in Minnesota. And so wondering whether or not this ICE agent who apparently shot and killed this woman who's an American citizen would be able to be charged under U.S. law.
The short answer is yes, he could, and I hope he will be. For those of you who have not seen the videos, they are deeply disturbing. I would nonetheless encourage you to try to watch one, because what you will see is a murder. There's no other way of describing it. An officer shoots this woman at point blank range, in the head as she is trying to escape. And if you read the account of her wife, the woman is 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good. She's a mother of a 6-year-old child, and she and her wife went to drop off their child at elementary school and saw ICE activity there and in their neighborhood. And so they exercised their constitutional right, to film federal officers who were engaged in legal violations. And, in the course of that, Renee ends up shot and killed. The administration has issued an absolutely horrendous statement, labeling her a domestic terrorist. And again, I would just urge everyone to watch the video and see for yourself. This administration will turn on anyone and characterize anyone as a threat, the second they stand up and attempt to exercise their rights. But to answer your question, federal officers can be prosecuted under state law. They are not immune from state law. Their defense is if they are acting, in the course of and in furtherance of their official duties. But of course, the response by the state, if the state were to prosecute the case, would be you weren't exercising in the course of your lawful duties. You were not acting in the scope of your duties. You were committing a murder. Nothing you did was remotely necessary for defense, of federal personnel or federal property. Nothing you did was remotely necessary for the enforcement of law. And so it will be a fight about whether the officer's actions were in furtherance and within the scope of their official duties. I think the video makes clear they were not. And so, yes, this officer can absolutely be charged with murder, in violation of state law.
What about in self-defense, though? I think that's what they're claiming, that she was trying to run down this officer and he was just firing into self-defense.
Yeah, so that is a defense that anyone, whether they are a federal official or not, could raise. But again, I think the video really undermines that claim. The officer is standing to the side of the vehicle and, goes up against the window and fires the weapon. They were not, in front of the car. There was if you watch it, it does not seem like the car is aiming itself at the officers. They were, together with other people attempting to circle around and see what the officers were doing.
Hi, I'm Pat Morrison, one of the hosts of America at a Crossroads. If you like this video, don't just watch. Head over to our website where you can subscribe for early access to new programs, see our upcoming schedules, and connect directly with our guests in our weekly live streams. Thank you for watching.
And this is, I don't know if this is the first American citizen who's been killed in these ICE operations, but there have been other murders or other killings, I should say, of people in the course of these ICE operations. Do you know if there has been any kind of prosecutorial action related to these killings?
Not that I am aware of or that I have seen. I do know that Minnesota Public Radio reported that the ICE shooting and murder today is the first shooting and murder in Minneapolis, of 2026, and was committed by an ICE officer.
And definitely tune in next week. Larry Mantle will be here, and he will host a conversation called The Politics of Hunger, Confronting Poverty in a Time of Division and Crisis. And that is next Wednesday, again, at 5 o'clock Pacific. And I will see you next time. Bye.